Good morning. I'm pleased to welcome one and all for this webinar, What's New in Backup Technologies, organized by 7Cs Technology. 7Cs has been in the UAE since 1983, and we have been trusted advisor to our customers, providing IT infrastructure solutions and services for nearly 40 years. My name is Venkat Subramanium, practice lead for enterprise systems in 7Cs Technology. I've been in the UAE for the past 14 years, leading sales and pre-sales activities for 3 different system integrators and engaging with customers, providing cutting-edge technology solutions in IT infrastructure, backup, and disaster recovery. Today, we organized this webinar with an objective to carry some key messages to our customers and our prospects. Now, I'm going to present a slide. Let's look at what this webinar consists of. It has 2 parts, basically. In the first part, we'll look at backup concepts in general, discuss key challenges, and go over general backup tasks and explore some key features and benefits in modern backup solutions. In the second part, we'll introduce our guest speaker from Rubrik, and he will go into the details of Rubrik's capabilities and explain why Rubrik sets a perfect example for a modern backup solutions. So it acts as a perfect example for a whole gamut of solutions out there. Later, we'll open the floor to questions and answers. We request all our participants to go on writing your questions on the chat box provided below. You can click on the chat window and then go on writing your questions. And then we'll try to answer those questions at the end. This webinar is being recorded, and we are going to upload the presentations on the 7Cs portal after completing this webinar. Let me now go on explaining some of the key customer challenges. Let's take a look at those challenges and then go about see how to address them. First thing, we all know that backup is an enigma of sorts, isn't it? Administrators, especially, it's a huge thing, no doubt. You already have so many challenges in data center to manage your servers, applications, systems, backup, storage, managing capacities for all this, meeting business deadlines. On top of that, you have to take care of backup, protecting companies' assets, companies' data. Of late, digital transformation has laid new imperatives on you, additional pressure and burden. You need to look up to your business, meet the business demands, because competitiveness is the key to be relevant in the marketplace. So you have a zero tolerance to data, you have or business downtime. Then comes dealing with threats and challenges. Ransomware, as you know, has taken us all by surprise and storm. In the last 2 years, especially, so many companies have lost critical data. They have either lost data or they have been taken to ransom by hackers who somehow intrude into their systems and then ask for a big ransom or kind of a payback to give back all the data back to them. The next thing is compliance topics, right? You have to meet government compliances. GDPR is one of the recently Abu Dhabi, UAE government has brought in some more conditions for suitable to the local requirements. So you have to adequately plan for all these compliance requirements, storage, capacities, where to back up, how long to back up, retention, etc. You have to do more with less. Apart from all this, you know that resources have always been challenging. You cannot just adequately plan for anything. It's always a situation, chicken or egg situation. So that is something you have to really do in terms of daily operations. Last but not the least, of course, the global pandemic. So it has pushed your boundaries further. Users have started to work from anywhere now. They spend more working from home. So you will have to find new ways of. The challenge is only doubled and tripled. You have to find new ways of protecting data, not just within the organization boundaries, but outside the organization as well. So, and you have to do all this by keeping costs in check. So this leads to us to discuss one of the key challenges, ransomware. How does ransomware happen? Let's have a look at it now. I'm just going to, demonstrate it by showing how it happens. First thing, the hacker, the attacker, let's say, they find some loophole, they find some systems to attack. They just find these systems and they take control of those systems. They go and encrypt the drives, right? Sometimes they introduce ways and means of transmitting this into other systems as well. So some systems can get compromised and some systems can remain safe. They probably are immune to it, but that's your luck. But how do we ensure that we protect all this? Now, not only encrypt, they encrypt and then they send a message to you saying that you pay this money and then I release this data. Not just this, you have to deal with something more as well. Yeah. They can even exfiltrate the file. They can go ahead, pull out what data is there, and then they can go ahead and sell it to some third parties for money. So that is even bigger danger, right? For your data gets compromised. I just want to throw some statistics. In the year 2019 alone, total ransomware payment per organization has exceeded $100,000 on average. There are 200,000 plus organizations who have been affected. And it's not just the payouts. Remember, you have to deal with how to get back your data up to speed, business up to speed and running. That's again a cost. That cost has been estimated to be over $80,000. So you put all together, it adds up to a very big cost. If you look at the industry with thousands and thousands of users getting affected, the picture can be enormous. It runs into a few $100 million, in total figure. Now, considering this, we need to really put up a fight against ransomware, right? So how do we do that? We'll start by looking at systems which are affected. Of course, you need assistance of tools. You need some effective, efficient monitoring tools in place, which gives you the right information at the right time. So you're able to say, suppose, isolate the affected systems and those of systems which could also be affected, subsequently. Apart from that, once you isolate that, at least your other systems are safe. Then you have the next phase, which is isolating your backup systems. So even if your production gets affected, you need to ensure that your backup systems are safe. So that is the next part in the whole thing, right? So what do you do then? This is the part I'm talking about. Then you have to use technologies which keep you safe from ransomware. So that is where modern backup systems, come into play. They provide an effective means to save you from ransomware kind of attacks. Then, of course, excuse me, just a moment. Yeah. Then, of course, let us look at some of the features that these systems do. Right? They have immutable storage repository, zero trust security built into the design. Retention time lock is one of the features. I'm actually going quick on these things because in the next segment, we're going to go deeper into these and explain you how these things happen and how the modern backup solution actually works to help you, right? So NTP poisoning, NTP server poisoning could be another way, right? So it can go ahead and change your time servers and make sure that your servers don't reboot. So that's one way of making you attacking you. Then of course, you also need these new backup solutions also have features such as advanced analytics, right? So they can scan and report about the exfiltration risk. So let's take a deeper look at all these things later. Performing periodic checking and testing of backup data, that's very important. That's one way you can fight ransomware. You can test your software patches before applying. This is one of the serious ways you can bring in any attacker into your system. There could be some bugs in the software, and those bugs could open some security ports, and hackers would be waiting to hatch upon them. Then, of course, you need to monitor and report detection capabilities. So what you need is something like security information event management systems, or SOAR, security operations systems, which collect logs, which maintain your logs and keep a constant tab on what happens in your network, what happens with your systems, and gives you alerts for you to take advanced actions to protect yourselves from. Then, of course, we have other backup challenges to address, right? It's not just we have anyway got ransomware out of the way. Let's look at other things. Minimizing data loss is one of the key things that is required of a modern backup solution. Solutions such as continuous data protection give you that benefit. You need to look at minimizing your backup and recovery window both, so that you can back up quickly and be able to recover quickly. So then, of course, you have data recovery challenges to address. You need to look at how quickly you can get your backup data up to speed and running for your production applications. You have features like instant recovery to address that part. Then there are other features such as fiber channel backup, storage snapshot backup, point in time backup, continuous backup, etc. These are all the features that you get out of modern backup systems. So they are very good, very effective in helping you. Storage repository. So planning for storage is never enough in backup, right? So different technologies, different solutions have different dedupe and compression ratios. So you need to really pay a lot of attention to this. When you decide on what solution you want, you need to look at this very, very carefully. Look at systems which give you the maximum benefit, so that the higher the ratios, the lower the cost you spend in terms of how much storage capacity you buy and install. Then, of course, you have to look at the integration features, right, with the backup software. The more the integrations, the more you can offload tasks from your CPU or the backup server or the gateway to the offloaded systems. There are some very good systems out there which can help you in this area. Then, of course, backup monitoring and reporting and automation. That's a very key area, because backup monitoring and reporting itself alerts you, keeps you up to speed, makes you aware of what is happening in your backup, how many backups have succeeded, how many backups are failing, why they're failing. It takes you to the problem resolution quickly and make sure your RTO RPOs are not affected too badly. Then, of course, there are challenges such as backup considerations. Where do you want to keep your backup? How much of backup you want to retain in the primary backup systems? Then the secondary backup. Do you want to backup to tape or to cloud? So in cloud, of course, you have new backup systems which really support multiple integrations. So Amazon S3, Glacier, Azure Archives are some of the examples. Connectivity. This is a very, very important thing to look at. Connectivity. I recently have had an opportunity to interact with multiple customers who have had multiple branch offices, backing up to their central site. And these customers have always come with different kinds of their current situation. Some of them had ADSL links in their branches, MPLS in their head office. Some of them had a good, leased internet connections. But we'll have to really look at what type of connections are available, whether different technologies are required, what kind of gateways are required, whether you need a VPN. You need to look at all those things. And then you need to look at what bandwidth you need to keep syncing the data between the branches and the primary site. This is something we need to really look. And then WAN backup challenges, of course, the same thing that I addressed in the previous point. Cloud backup challenges. In cloud backup, you want to look at a solution which gives you backup and replication together, right? Those are the kind of solutions which are going to help you solve problems quickly. You don't have to license multiple products. License one product, one system, which goes with backup software, backup storage, and a replication, all bundled into one. That will be the best, to have, isn't it? So these are the things you can look at, in terms of challenges and how to address them. Now let's do a checklist, right? Before we look at something else, let's do a checklist, because this is very important. We need to really do this very frequently, because an organization situation is dynamic, because your IT requirements are changing, your business requirements are changing. You may have done some things in some ways in the past. The same thing may not be suitable to continue forever. You need to really review your processes, review whether you're doing things right, review what new things have been added and how to include that in your backup plan and activities. So first, on the point, I would see that you need to keep reviewing your operating systems, files, databases, applications, everything from time to time, and see what you need to cover in the backup, or need to expand, what is not backed up, what is backed up, or are you leaving out some critical system and then backing up something which is not needed to be backed up. All these things to be reviewed. Then, of course, you need to create copies, multiple copies. I'll talk about this a little later. You need to plan multiple backup and retention policies. Yeah, that's again, I'll talk about later. We need to talk about reporting success and failure. Again, this is possible only when you integrate a proper automation system, a proper monitoring solution with your with your backup system. Then, of course, you have a second copy of backup. You need to really do have multiple copies, and you need to plan in certain ways. I'm going to do that in the next slide. We need to tier backup data to public cloud. This is one of the new things which is coming up. So people are doing tiering and archival of backup data, which needs to be kept on a compliance requirement on the public cloud. Then you need to look at protecting public cloud, IaaS, PaaS, different types of workloads. So that's something you need to look at. Then you need to look at protecting remote sites. As I discussed in the challenges, of course, remote sites, file synchronization, data synchronization is gaining a lot in importance. A lot of customers are discussing those kind of things today. Then, of course, talking about the recommended approaches, I highlighted some of the points in the previous checklist slide, and I'm going to go ahead and address. The most recommended practice in terms of backup approaches is the 3-2-1 copy. You have 3 copies of data on 2 media and 1 offsite. This is the most common recommended approach. Then, of course, in terms of retention, you have a grandfather, father, son retention policy. The son will be a daily incremental for 7 days, father a weekly full for 5 weeks, and grandfather a monthly full for 12 months. This is the standard recommendation, best practice. Beyond 12 months, the yearly retentions can be archived and kept offsite, right? So you can even keep the monthly fulls for 3 months on site, and after 3 months you can archive that offsite. So, or you can have 6 months. Depends on how frequently your users need to access data, or how much of your data in the recent past is critical to your business, and that needs to be accessed more quickly, more frequently. So depending on that, you just plan this grandfather pretty well, because grandfather is a key backup retention policy that determines your cost and impacts your cost of how you decide a disk-based backup system or an archive backup system, one way or the other, right? So if you increase your local retention in the disk, it's going to increase your cost of what you spend on your backup in the primary backup, and any amount of retention on the secondary backup, it's not going to it's going to be a cost, no doubt, in terms of your long-term retention, but it's going to be costing less than how much data you keep in the primary backup. And then, of course, you have to deal with compliance requirements. Sectors such as healthcare today have mandated up to 15 years retention, long-term retention archival. Government records, you need to keep up to 7 years. Private sector, between 2 to 3 years. So let me go quickly and summarize, what we get out of modern backup and recovery. We have Office 365 backup, and then which can protect both cloud and on-premise. That's what modern backup do compared to the traditional backup systems. You can backup data anywhere, restore across mailboxes and locations. Today's backup solutions combine multiple features for you: storage snapshots, backup, replication, CDP, archival as well in a single platform. So what that means to you is simplicity and easy licensing, save costs and reduce recovery. So yeah, I think I have it. Yeah. So that's what you have. Then of course, multi-cloud archive, archival. So what that means is you have a choice. You have a choice of multiple, solutions, multiple platforms. You can plan your primary backup on premise and a DR of the backup in the cloud, a second copy in the cloud, something like that. And you can have cross-platform hypervisor support. You can probably running your production systems in Hyper-V, for example, and probably you could probably recover it in any native format in the Azure or the AWS clouds, or in VMware vSphere format. Vice versa. Instant recovery, you can restore VMs in minutes after failure, because backup systems have a method of directly presenting the data to a temporary virtual machine, and full recovery happens in the background. So that's one way. And of course, there are solutions such as backup as a service and DR as a service. You can implement a central backup solution, and you can integrate multiple backup requirements for your different departments in your organization by integrating chargeback and billing capabilities. And you can even charge your departments, make backup as an internal profit center, kind of a profit generator, revenue generator. So these are all the features you get. Now I'm going to introduce our associate, our key associate, Rubrik, and I introduce Mehmet Gonulu, Territory Sales Manager, Dubai, Northern Emirates, and Turkey. He's going to talk about Rubrik, and he's going to give you reasons why Rubrik can be a better modern backup solution. Over to you, Mehmet.
Thank you very much, Venkat. How much time I have so I can?
You can take 10 to 15 minutes. Should not be a problem. Yeah.
Okay. Can I get the sharing possible?
I think you have the sharing. Yeah. Should I?
Hold on. No.
You are a panelist. Yeah.
Okay, sure. So what I would like to do is, if you give just 1 second. So I'll focus on the cybersecurity part, right, Venkat? Or do you want me to go over?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sure. So let me share my screen. Let me know when you can see it.
Oh, yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone, again, for joining us today for this webinar. I just have to confess something with you. Like, usually when the topic of backups comes, it's not the most appealing topic, like it's usually a boring technology, and so just tick in the mark for compliance and so on. But as Venkat was mentioning in his slides, we started to see things going very, very differently. And as Rubrik, of course, we do backup and recovery, but we believe our first use case is ransomware recovery, because if you don't have the cyber resiliency and the readability for your solution to come back in case of a cyber attack, any incident from any kind, we have a problem here. Now, maybe some of the things that I would be repeating from Venkat, but it's just to highlight the point and stress on the importance of how like data should be saved and safeguarded. Now, usually in a two-way discussions, what I would ask you is, why do we take backups? Like, why we have backups? Because backups are our insurance policies, right? So we don't stay one day driving the car without an insurance policy, because there is a chance, even if it's very low, that we might, God forbid, have an accident, and then we will not be able to recover. Now, same thing happens to data. So the question that organizations are asking these days is, my data safe? But let's look what has been done on the data security so far. With the beginning of the pandemic, we started to see actually more and more attention to security because everyone went working from home. Things were closed. We were not able to reach the data center. So the focus was on data security, which is good. But if you see, all the investments were done around perimeter, network, endpoint, and application security. So we've done a lot of investments over there. You brought the best EDR, XDR, the best firewall, the best application security platform, which is good. We should do this. But what have we done on the data layer? How are we making sure that my data is safe? Now, the reason I'm asking this question is the following. Despite all the investment that has been accelerated in a very, very fast way during the pandemic, 2020 and even 2021, every day, and I'm gonna give you a hint, just you can set up something on Google called Google Alert for the word ransomware, or you can subscribe to any of these security feeds, and you will be shocked by the number of organizations that still get hit by ransomware on daily basis. Did they not have any security in place? No, indeed they had security in place. But the thing is, these threat actors, hackers, they find what's called 0 day, and they manage to enter your environment, and then they would go and encrypt your data. So what we aim to do at Rubrik is we want to become the firewall on the data level, because you're covered from the perimeter, network, endpoint, application, and we want to become your last line of defense, your last resort in case of a cyber attack, and then help you in recovering also fast. Now, let's have a look what's happening today. I think it's good, like Venkat, he shared some statistics and so on and so forth, but I want to have an analogy of what organization would do actually in case of a ransomware attack. So the hacker, he leveraged, as I mentioned, a 0 day. So 0 day, it might be in your remote desktop application, it might be in your firewall, it might be in your VPN application, a lot of attack points possible there. So these hackers, they enter the network, they start to do the scanning, they don't do their attack in 1 day. So they stay for a quite time. The recent I read is minimum 10 days, up to 90 days. Why they are doing this? They are trying to understand, where am I? Okay, I get access to a network. Let's see how much money I can take from this organization. Are they a bank? Are they a high reputable organization that they will lose money in case their business stop? Do they have any critical data exposed over the network that I can take and then I can, blackmail them with it? So I would say, if you don't pay, I'm gonna put your customers' emails, like credit card numbers and so on the dark web. So this is what these hackers are doing. And then on a specific day, they decide, okay, now it's the time, I'm done with my work. Let's show them the famous message. Ransomware note, usually it says, hey, all your data has been encrypted. Either you have to pay this amount in Bitcoin or you will lose your data forever. Now, in such situation, organization, they face two scenarios. So the first scenario is that they're gonna go and pay the ransom. Who could pay the ransom? Like, of course, these guys, they don't ask for small numbers, right? They don't ask for a couple of thousands of dollars. They ask sometimes for millions and 10 of millions sometimes, depend on the organizations. So the ones who pay the ransom maybe are the ones who get the cyber insurance policy. So nowadays, it's something very like trending in the US and in Europe, having a cyber insurance policy. So people would say, okay, in case of a ransomware attack, I will use this money and they're gonna pay it to the hackers, which is honestly not good for two reasons. The first reason is you are helping the criminals and we are encouraging them to go and continue with their actions, which is something we don't want to happen. The second thing is an example that we saw at Rubrik in one of our existing customers, where the customer, he was hit by ransomware, he paid the ransom because he was covered by the insurance policy. But guess what? The decryption key was so slow that like 5 days, 6 days passed and still they were not able to get back online. And then they said, okay, any other way we can recover back? They said, okay, let's go to the backups. And it was Rubrik that saved the day at the end. Now, this is in case you have the money, you are covered somehow to pay this amount. Now, what would happen if you would not pay the ransom? So in this situation, what needs to happen, you need to have, of course, like it's a crisis management. It's like very stressful times, and you need to divide your team into two groups. So you have the security operations team that they will do the forensics. So they will try to understand how big was this attack? Was there any data exposed? They will try to understand the blast radius of the attack. Was it one system, 10 system, our whole data center? While the IT operation teams, they're gonna have to do the following. They're gonna go and find a healthy backup point and then attempt to restore from it. Now, the thing is, what if the backups were compromised? So a lot of reasons the backup can be compromised. I will discuss this in the next slide. But what if the backups were either deleted or encrypted? What's gonna happen? So no choice other than paying the ransom. Now, at this stage, someone might tell me, Mehmet, but there's a solution where I would have like my tapes and then I could recover from tapes. Excellent. The thing is, when we decide to recover from tape, so there are like a lot of challenges. The first thing, we know that it's gonna take time, right? So it's gonna take days, weeks, we don't know. And then we start to need to do compromises. Which system has to start first? And how we would know in the first place that the tape version of the backup is actually a healthy one. So imagine all the stress, imagine all this. And then you know what would happen? I've seen a couple of news headlines. I think it was 2018 and 2019, where we saw some organization wiped out of business. They are not there anymore. Why? Because they lost their data. They said, we cannot operate. We lost all our data. Now, if you go to the approach of trying to restore something, it might work, but at the end of the day, it's gonna take weeks, months, how much the business is willing to wait. Let's think about always, not only from technology perspective. Let's think about the business outcomes of such a ransomware attack. Now, first, it might be the reputation of the organization. It might be affecting the day-to-day operations. It might be affecting revenues. It might be affecting lives. I'm not sure if we have anyone here from the healthcare sector, but like imagine a hospital that would not be able to give its patients healthcare. Imagine if like government entities are not able to give me the service. Imagine I cannot do transactions on my credit cards. I cannot withdraw money. Life will stop. It's not a joke. Ransomware, it's a buzzword. I agree with it. Everyone talks about it, yes, but it's a true thing. Now, at Rubrik, we wanted to change the game. And we wanted to become, as I told you, the firewall layer on top of your data. So data is actually where your backups are sitting. We want to protect it. And there are some key principles, and these key principles are not from Rubrik. These are from the National Information Security Institute in the US, which is the highest ranked, like organization or in a government body that does, the best practices. And they have some, like recommendations over there. So the first thing they tell, the readers of their reports, you have to have an air gap. What is an air gap? Air gap means, as one of my friends told me, he said that means you have to unplug the cable. So that means your data should not be exposed over the network. Now, how we do this in a backup world? Back in the days, and still maybe we are doing it, we can use the tape, which is a physical media. It can be disconnected, it can be put in a safe. But I just explained the challenges when it comes to restore. How fast can we restore from this? Can we bring the applications up and running within, like, let's say in best cases, hours? No, we cannot. If we don't have an air gap, it's an issue. Now, there is some air gap kinds where you have to sync a system from time to time. So you need to buy additional hardware. You need to open a tunnel like for a couple of hours to sync. But this is not an air gap because you are exposing, again, your data over the network. So what we came up with, a new approach to this, we call it the logical air gap approach, where Rubrik file system, because Rubrik, we are a software-defined hyper-converged infrastructure platform for your backup and recovery. So our file system doesn't expose itself to the network. So you will see 0 storage port outside to the network. So the backups are never exposed. We need to have immutability. Immutability means everything I write on the file system should not be edited or modified later on. So this is what we call immutability. And we need to have zero trust. Now, these are the, I would say, key principles of data protection that we believe in at Rubrik. Let me explain a little bit more. So what you are seeing here on the left side of the screen is a traditional backup architecture that Venkat, like he mentioned also in his slides. So you have on very high level, you have the software. The software doesn't work by itself. It needs a hardware. So I need a master server. The master server needs some media servers, proxy servers. I need a backup catalog, which is a database, and I need a disk-based backup. So think about it. Each one of these components is by itself a valid security attack point. Why? Because it's a piece of software running on a traditional operating system, whether it's Windows, Linux, you just name it. So every time I need to make sure, do I have the latest patches installed on my master server? Do I have the latest patch installed on my proxy server, on my catalog, and on my storage, right? Because the hacker, we cannot predict what they would do. They can attack us on any one of these points. This is why, you know, it's very critical architecture. It looks, yes, nice, working fine, but from security point of view, it's not the ultimate one, because anything using standard storage protocol is vulnerable. So what would these hackers would do? So they will encrypt your backups, and then they would be at the same time, one or more of these components will be also compromised. So what will happen? Major attacks are not recoverable. What we do with Rubrik is a native air-gapped immutable solution, as I mentioned. So we provide the modern hyper-converged backup software and backup storage into one single software fabric. It's a HTML5 scale-out architecture, ready to be integrated with the cloud, plus live mount. So in case there's any issue in production, we can instantly recover your virtual machines, your databases like SQL, Oracle, and bring it fast. And we don't expose any storage protocol over the network. So this is what we call native logical air gap. Backups are immune by design, so they cannot be modified, encrypted. And with this technology, in case of a ransomware attack, you can be rest assured that Rubrik would be able to save the day, because we have this inside technology. But let me tell you, I'm not done yet. So air gap and immutability is like just two check boxes. You remember I showed you something called zero trust. Let's see what is zero trust. So zero trust, it has by itself its own architecture. So zero trust means trust no one, right? Every time verify. This is why our solution, we call it bunker in a box. So basically you have a hardened appliance with a secure Linux build with no vendor patch or shell access. So you cannot just root access to the system. You cannot type the traditional Linux command. It is by default hardened. We don't allow any third-party application to be installed on top. Sometimes I get this question, Mehmet, Solution X, they can run antivirus. Okay, but take care. Do you remember what happened to SolarWinds? Because they were a third-party integration, and then the hacker leveraged that patch to put his malware in. So this is why we closed our system. We don't allow any third-party application to be running on top of our system. Very important. Plus the immune file system. End-to-end encryption, it's something everyone does. I will not stop here, but let me give you this scenario. What the hacker would do, the hacker will go in and then he will start to go to the Active Directory on the LDAP. He will start to scan, see out what's there. Somehow he will leverage to get his account, you know, get to the higher level of access. And then he would go to the backups, because you have given a service account backup admin rights with admin rights. So this admin, a rogue admin, he would go, and what he would do, he doesn't need even to encrypt. He would go and delete your backups. Why? Because there is no secure login mechanism. There is no integration with multi-factor authentication solution. There is no integration with single sign-on solution. So this is why it's very dangerous if the backup system doesn't have multi-factor authentication and role-based access with read-only admin and least privilege access, we have a problem here. Hacker can go and delete your backups. Now you might tell me, we don't use single sign-on or we don't use multi-factor authentication. How we can get protected? Rubrik got your back because we can enable built-in time OTP. So time OTP is something you are familiar with when you have to log in with a code in addition to the password. So we can integrate with something like Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator. And then even the shell access, even the SSH access is also with the time OTP over there. Very important point. And retention log. So what is a retention log? Retention log is not a new concept, but basically is that to avoid a verified admin by mistake or a rogue admin on purpose to go. Venkat was mentioning about like different policies. So let's take the healthcare policy of 15 years. Imagine an admin, he goes and say, okay, my hospital policy now, it's instead of 15 years, it's 1 day. What will happen? Your backups will be gone, right? Because it's expired and you selected this. So the retention log is a mechanism that you don't allow either a verified admin or a rogue admin to go easily change this retention. So this is what we call retention log. Plus, we started to see very smart actions from these hackers. What they do, they go to your NTP and then they poison it. So that's something very famously called NTP poisoning or drifting. So today we are 25th of November 2021. So all of a sudden, what they showed to the system, we are in 25th of November 2036. So we are 15 years in the future. What would happen in this situation? The backup catalog server, okay, now we've crossed 15 years. Let's start expiring these backups. Rubrik is a solution that is, very well designed against such attacks because we don't rely on the NTP for time and measuring how long has been this backup sitting in our platform. So we have something called monotonic clock that we introduce to make sure that you are protected. So in a nutshell, what I want to highlight is what you see here down, it's like not one is okay. We should have all of them. Logical air gap, immune file system by design, encryption, secured logins, retention log, NTP protection. This only and only this, what will provide you something that you can guarantee recovery in case of a ransomware attack. Now, the zero trust story we talk about, again, it's based on best practices. So you need to have the ability first to make sure that your data is protected. That's why I was talking about the NIST security standards. So you need to be prepared. This is what we do. Zero trust data protection. You need to have a mechanism to detect and investigate to discovery. You need to have a mechanism to classify the data, contain the attack, and then orchestrate the recovery. So this is what we do with Rubrik. And this is how we guarantee that instead of you pay the ransom, if you said in the first slides, here the option 2, data is always recoverable. This is something we do. And I'm showing you like some very quick screenshots of how our machine learning, artificial intelligence offerings, they can detect any suspicious changes in the files in production from the backup. So basically what we do after each backup, we would go and do some scanning and some analysis and some machine learning to predict, or let's say to give you an idea if there was any anomalies and how much was the scope of the attack. So here, for example, in this video, as you can see, I'm seeing, I have 1,800 something files that have changed. Now, the beauty of the solution, you don't have to recover the whole VM now or the whole file server. Only you can recover what was changed. What Rubrik can do also, so this is something very important, we can do classifications of the data. Why we are doing this? You might ask me, but you are a backup solution. Yes, we are a backup solution, but with security flavor and security direction. Because as I was explaining before, the hacker is sitting inside scanning your data. Let me ask, and I know like I'm just asking myself now, what would happen if a hacker found a Word document containing very sensitive data, maybe containing Emirates IDs, credit cards, because someone by mistake, he downloaded a report from your ERP system or whatever, and then he put it on a file share and everyone has access to it. So of course the hacker will get access to that. So what we do scanning for regulated data after each backup, and then we correlate the user access with the data deletion or modification. And then we will show you, based on this today backup, let's say you have, I don't know, 100 systems. So out of 100 systems, we found five systems where there is classified data sitting there. Are you aware about it? So if you say yes, it's secured, no one has access except the ones who should have, okay, then next time we will skip this. But if it's not the case, we are giving you a hint that you might have some sensitive data sitting in there because the hacker might use this in the future for extra filtration. And the last thing I want to say, we can do new mass recovery and restore for hundreds of applications. So either we can restore the whole virtual machine or the whole system, or we can choose granular files or folders that we want to recover. We have a lot of references, like of course, we can discuss this one-to-one later, but you can see it's always what Rubrik helping customer in is recovering from ransomware, right? Oops, sorry, I need to just show you this. I still have 2 slides and I'm done. So I just opened the slides to highlight something. If you see across Rubrik customers who are using Rubrik, just have a look at this security part. So you can see Palo Alto Networks, FireEye, Fortinet, SonicWall, Proofpoint, Imperva, and Tenable. I'm sure that at least you use 1 or 2 of these in your data center. These are security companies. They produce security products, right? And these companies, they know themselves that there is nothing called 100% security. So they need to rely on backups. And what they use today, they use Rubrik. So what we introduced recently, and it's a bold action in the market, and we are seeing a lot of discussions, and we receive a lot of queries about it. We released the first ever warranty for ransomware recovery. So Rubrik, as a company, we are so sure about our technology. It has been tested actually. I can tell you minimum, we have helped till now across the globe more than 250 customers recovering from ransomware attack. They recovered fast. They didn't lose $1 single to the bad actors. This is why you can see, like always we say, don't pay the ransom. Always, like we stretch on this. We don't want to encourage these actions because the one time you pay the ransom, these guys will come again. Just to let you know, we have a customer that was hit, not in the UAE. So one customer in Africa, so he was hit by ransomware and Rubrik helped him in recovering. So the hacker, he tried his luck the second time, and then somehow he wrote me him a very small note. He said, Mr. Customer, I want to congratulate you for using Rubrik as your backup solution, because with Rubrik, I cannot do anything. So this is why we brought this warranty. It's the first in the market. It's a ransomware recovery. We tell the customer, if you cannot recover from Rubrik in case of a ransomware attack, we're gonna pay you up to $5 million. This is something bold. This is something new in the market. I want to highlight it. And this is what we call the real ransomware recovery. We don't talk anymore about backups. Everyone can take backups. The most important, how we can recover from ransomware. And by this, I would say, don't back up, go forward, and back to you, Venkat.
Yeah, thank you, Mehmet. It was such a wonderful session. Very, very good. How well elucidated. The points, everything is so important. Every single slide, there was so much to tell us about ransomware and how we can protect our data. Now, I'd like to leave the floor open to questions in case anyone has. You can also leave your questions behind in the chat box for us to answer later after the presentation as well. Yes, please. One, Mr. Siad. Hello, Siad. Yeah. Yes, sir, please.
I think they can write also in the question and answer section.
Yeah, chat box. They're writing. Somebody is writing hi. I just wanted to know if there is a question. I'm not seeing any question there so far. Okay. Presently, we have on-premise backup. Yes. Do we have immutable backups in Azure as well in UAE?
Yes.
Mohammed, yeah.
Immutability about Azure, it's there, and it's regardless where the region of Azure is. So the answer is yes. It's a good question, just because it's very important to mention for the attendees, because the time constraint. I wanted to highlight on the security. Microsoft, I think around 6 weeks ago, during their Ignite event, they have announced that they have invested in Rubrik. So they have invested money with us as Rubrik, and we have developed a joint solution across all the workload that Microsoft covers, especially around Azure. So it's Azure VM backups, Azure SQL backup, and Microsoft 365. So gentlemen, ladies, if you do today, you use Office 365, I know that usually the thought is, Microsoft is taking care of that. Unfortunately, that's not correct, because still the data is your responsibility. We have developed a very intuitive, very easy, very cost-effective solution with Microsoft. So it's built on Microsoft Cloud itself, offered by Rubrik, where we can protect your Exchange Online, OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams.
Great. Mehmet, just to confirm, they have some different types, right, in Azure. They call it container-based immutability and object-based immutability. Is there anything, does that impact in any way the Rubrik's?
I'm not the technical guy, unfortunately, to answer this,
Okay.
but we can
take
find
it off. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, sure.
So because I've had this discussion before with other vendors, and some vendors support object-based, immutability. Some vendors support container-based.
The thing I can tell you, Venkat, here, and this is the point I'm sure about, is we are the only vendor in the Microsoft ecosystem that get access to all the APIs. So we have access to APIs more than any other vendor because of the recent announcement and Microsoft becoming investors at Rubrik.
Excellent. Yeah, very correct. Good point that you said as well. The fact that Microsoft has taken interest to invest, it means that they're going to really work on the APIs and make sure, even if something is not there, they're going to fill the gaps. I'm pretty sure of that. I need similar presentation for my management. Probably we'll be able to put together something for you, sir, Mr. Irshad. Yeah, we will definitely put something together for you. I'll ask our account manager to get in touch with you and see what we can do about it. Maybe Mehmet, you can help me. We can put some good presentation content, which whatever we present.
Yeah, sure, we can.
Yeah, we can help our customer. Mr. Siad, the backup server is almost 6 years old, and whether it's time to move to cloud. So Mehmet, you'd like to address this?
So moving to cloud, honestly, like it's a pure, I would say, like it's your organization whether you want to adopt the cloud. I'm not sure from like if your sector allows, because for example, but by the way, in the UAE now we don't have this anymore. Moving to cloud, it has its benefits, of course. So, but the backup server, the good thing with Rubrik, we call ourselves the cloud data management. So basically, we follow the customer data wherever it is. So if you are still having on-prem, we can have our solution on-prem. If you have a hybrid model, so we can still give you the visibility of your data, whether it's on-prem, in cloud. And if you move completely to cloud, Rubrik would help you in backing up, the data inside the cloud. Because remember again, and I want to stress on this, a lot of, I was having before when I was customer years back and cloud was still new at that time, I was under impression that, okay, when I move to cloud, it's like a magic. I don't have to manage everything. It's not the case, I think. So data is always the responsibility of the company or the organization. And this is why, even if you shift your workloads to the cloud, you need still a backup solution. Few things, hints here I can tell you. Look always, and I'm talking like a consultant now, not as Rubrik, look at two things. A solution that can reduce the cost in the cloud, because cloud economics is a tricky game, and look into a solution that provides you the 100% security and visibility. So it's a good discussion. Maybe we can take it further in other webinars, maybe.
Just to add to what Mehmet says, you need to look at the economics as well. So cloud economics is not as cheap as it is, understood to be. Yeah, there is money to be paid when you want to get your data back anytime. So as long as you keep putting your backup in the cloud, it's fine. So that's why cloud is very suitable for long-term archives, because you put it there and just forget it. I mean, you just have to worry about the compliance. It's all right. So it's very good for that. But if you have to really keep going back and forth, getting the data back for some reason, then of course you have to look at the economics in terms of the costs, So yeah, I think a hybrid approach will help. You always, plan your immediate needs, what you need to recover frequently on premise as much as possible, and then put only the long-term archives to cloud. Yeah, that will be a very good approach.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add one thing to what Venkat mentioned, because what we started to see also that there are some technologies that are fit to the cloud because of their scale and because of the way they get deployed. So this is, for example, if you would require something that have to deal with machine learning, analytics, like there's like a bunch of algorithms and bunch of resources that need to be deployed, and cloud would be a very good use case, for example. But again, I would wish maybe, Venkat, we can discuss this later, and would be beneficial for our customers. We might have come with a webinar just regard the cloud and how to protect the data and the use cases. So it's a hot topic, I think.
Very good. Very good. So we can always take it up later. So any further questions? If there are no further questions, we are almost coming to the end of the session. So yeah, we have 2 minutes. So you can still go ahead and ask your questions. Please do not forget to leave your feedback. You can log into our website, www.sstech.in, and we have given our details there. You can contact us anytime. Some of our account managers are also there in the call. You could get in touch with them for whatever needs you have. If you want us to arrange a one-on-one session with you, physically come and meet you, we'll be very glad to do so. We are here to provide service to you, and that's our business. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thanks,
Great.
everyone.
Thank you, Venkat, and thank you for all the attendees today. I hope that the session was beneficial. One thing, and I'm gonna close. One thing I want you to think about it. Maybe probably not during the weekend. I don't want to make the weekend very tough for you. But one thing, maybe on Sunday, you should start to think about, in case, God forbid, of a ransomware attack, what would be the impact, not only on the IT systems, what's the impact on the business? Maybe you can have these conversations with your colleagues and how we can make sure that we can recover fast. So with this, I would like again to thank you a lot for the time today. We finished on time, 1 hour. Thank you, Venkat, and the whole 7 Seas teams for organizing this webinar. And hopefully next time we would maybe organize something face-to-face also as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Mehmet. We appreciate your time. Thanks, every attendee. Have a nice day. Bye. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.